Hi. This morning I have a little dharma for triads. Now, if you're like me, born and raised in the church, my first reaction to this is, okay, here we go. We're going to be talking about all the little extra things. No longer man and wife. We're mixing up a third, then the fourth, then the fifth. Pretty soon we're going to marry a rocking chair because we're all going to get a little crazy. We probably would if we married a rocking chair. But this is more about dignifying sacred sexuality. This is also about articulating the hidden conquest infrastructures in marriage. Marriage is a beautiful thing. Marriage is also communion and embodiment. What I say is not removing any dignity from that. But here is the conquest version. There is a church-state version of marriage that came about shortly after Rome became a Christian empire state. The church-state marriage was one of those things that became a tool for conquest. Suddenly, with the establishment of the church-state marriage of Rome, which is what Paul wrote about in the New Testament, the marriage depicted there is more of a configuration that was pre-established by Rome. And Paul, as a Christian, he was writing to help make Christianity relatable for Romans. This is why Paul wrote of the Roman Christian marriage. Christ did not get married. I think that says something. I think it says that there is a form of embodied communion that's not limited to marriage. And if we do limit it to marriage, what happens then is that marriage becomes a tool of conquest. It is the church-state marriage which suddenly expands the jurisdiction of empire into our own bodies. That is empire. That's not communion. Sometimes communion happens outside of that container. It's conquest to call that sin. It's communion to call that sacred. I'll have more teachings to share about that later. I just wanted to lay the groundwork. But let's take a moment to think about the configuration of the triad. It's based on the holy number of 3, God's number of perfection. It's based on the original Trinity. Mother, Father, Divine Child. Mother in this case is the first. Mother as Creator Mother. So in the original Trinity of Mother, Father, Divine Child, we see that there is a perfection in this configuration. It is a balance of masculine and feminine energies, and it results to a creation, life. That can take different expressions. It can be literal life. It can be a new life of consciousness that both people participate in. It can mean many different things. This configuration is important because it is an internal representation of what it means for each of us to reconcile with our full selves. You see, when we are born, we start a love story with ourselves to reconcile with our masculine and feminine halves. Our exchanges with other human beings around us help us enliven that internal conversation. But when we find within ourselves a balance of these masculine and feminine energies, we ascend, we become the divine child, we become the androgynous Christ. Sometimes an external relationship, a literal relationship, does that for us. Sometimes we don't need one, and we can accomplish that ourselves. Those are the basic formulas. Those are for guideposts. So if external relationships don't look like that, that doesn't mean that those relationships aren't holy. They can still be holy. So with the triad, what's really beautiful about this structure is that there are three basic purposes for a triad, like the three corners. There's procreation, the creation of life. That can even be like the creation of a project. That's one reason why a triadic configuration can be coming together. Another is pleasure. Pleasure for the sake of pleasure. Pleasure for healing. That's another configuration purpose. Then there's also prophecy. Prophecy is a profound reason to commune together. There's becoming, there's message, there's God. So, know that there is a place for a triadic configuration. But the most important part to understand about this is the discipline of non-attachment. You see, attachment, that is a reaction of conquest. Conquest wants to control. Conquest wants to own. Attachments, it's the same thing. Attachments wants to keep relationship dynamic. Sometimes we can get caught in the allurement that a triadic or a triad connection is something to hold on to forever. Sometimes it can be those things. But if it's going to be those things, it's going to be because there is no attachment, and it ends up looking like that. Sometimes, when we feel the presence of these triadic configurations, it's not something that you think up of or you conquest and plot over. Nor is it something that you see someone else has weaved together and then you just take it over. That's the conquest approach. Communion weaves it together. Communion is not an attainment of a triad outside of us. It's a result of falling into ourselves. So, those are just some basic principles that you can play around with. Even if you are in a marriage, and your marriage reaches a place where it's no longer growing, it's no longer feeling pleasure, it's no longer feels purposeful. It is okay if your marriage discovers a chapter of a triadic configuration. Maybe a fresh breath of newness moves through your relationship, and everyone gifts one another something that can only come from God. And by not attaching, perhaps that moves through, or perhaps it chooses to stay. So there is space to allow such things, even if you're married. but only through the discipline of non-attachment. So now I'm going to speak to someone specific. And I'm going to want them to tune into not words coming at them, but a vibration and a resonance and a frequency that is coming from within. There is a woman who watches these posts among men, and she investigates. And she has reached out to women who I know, sending them videos and posts that I do, getting their opinions and their takes. It's a methodical process, but it's all dictated by you. And through this process, there are now 2 women that are at the top of the list that you've been engaging with. These 2 women and myself is a triadic configuration. You know this by now because it's through your own choices that these 2 women have risen to the top. And you enjoy those engagements too, for different reasons. You feel an energy that is like a current moving through the 3. And there's also a part of this current that's you. Because as it nourishes you with energy, you nourish it. And it feeds it. It nourishes it. So I'll share with you something about these women. These are past loves. It is a connection woven with an already established love. This is why the current runs through. And now you are center, orchestrating something unconsciously. And now you're hearing what you've been doing unconsciously. You've been listening to a signal from your body. This is the message of embodiment, and including you is making it communion. This is not a triadic configuration out of conquest. This is not a making out of my head or a taking of something pre-established. It is something that you see and feel very clearly. And it is you that shares these messages to them because they do not have access to my Facebook account. It's because of you. We've been able to be woven together in this unexpected way. And so if there is purpose for this triad, if there is pleasure that has been nourishing us, that's there. Perhaps there's procreation that inspires us, a life. Maybe that's there. I would definitely say it's prophecy. Because this triadic configuration is a private one. And yet I speak of it publicly because of you. The signature the three of you have is that of a priestess. The other two women have the same signature, but it is unique in both of them. Yours is unique too, but the three of you are the same. I don't know how long these windows last when we have them, because when spirit moves, spirit moves. And so what I see in you as the center of us three, for your embodiment and communion for the priestess within you and the God of energy circulating all around us. I feel that it is only appropriate if you're the one that names this configuration to each of them. I've spoken this configuration in my own privacy, in my own space. But sometimes there is overwhelm. Sometimes there is trauma that can keep two people from talking, or three. But when the voice comes from outside, while feeling the same inside, it speaks the same truth. And this also initiates you into your own priestess. That is what I see. That is what I feel. It then becomes a weaving of embodiment, because it is felt. There's no taking. And also a weaving of communion, because you are now included in the naming. So, by choosing to send this to each woman, and you should know who they are by now. The choosing is the naming, because you have authority to inform them of certain posts or not. So whether this window passes by or we step in, what we've been able to do now with the very private connection between three, we've been able to make it public and make it embodied and give it a spirit of communion. And that's a wonderful feat that we can do together. So without attachment to outcome, this is what we have already accomplished together. And each of us can have satisfaction and ownership of that. The three of you as priestesses with me. So, thank you. And to the men who are with you, who watch, I just do this one step at a time. I follow God day by day. It's pretty much that simple. Whether I think or believe everything I say is moot, it's just a daily practice of obedience. All right.